Some photographs become famous because of what they show. A very small number become famous because of what happened next. The last images of Diana, Princess of Wales, belong to the second kind. They are not glamorous. They are grainy security camera frames from a hotel corridor in Paris, time-stamped just after midnight on August 31st, 1997. A woman in a black blazer waiting by a service door, glancing back down the corridor. She looks tired. She looks ordinary. It is the last night of her life. 29 years later, those frames are still studied, still broadcast, still argued over because they sit at the edge of the most examined night in modern royal history. Millions of people believe they know what happened after that door opened. Most of them know only fragments. The full sequence, minute by minute, is stranger and sadder than the myth. And it begins with a plan that changed twice in a single evening. This is not just an anniversary. Nearly 3 decades on, that night still shapes how the monarchy behaves, how it guards the Waleses, how it handles the press, how a generation of royals learned what fame can cost. A 2-year French investigation, a British police inquiry, and a London inquest that heard months of evidence took the night apart, second by second. What they found answered almost everything. And what they did answer helps explain the ferocity with which William has guarded his own wife and children from the same machine ever since. The story of those final hours starts with an evening whose plans kept collapsing, and it ends with a single line in the official file that nobody, in 29 years, has ever been able to close. The summer of 1997 was Diana reinventing herself. A year on from the divorce, she had auctioned 79 of her dresses in New York, raising millions for charity, as if selling off a former life piece by piece.
It was the most glamorous auction of the century. Buyers paid from $20,000 to $200,000 for a dress. The money went to Diana's favorite charities.
She had walked a cleared lane through a live minefield in Angola in January, in the flak jacket and visor that produced some of the defining images of her life, and visited landmine survivors in Bosnia in August, dragging the world's cameras toward a cause instead of a scandal. The treaty banning those mines was signed within months of her death, and campaigners credited her Angola walk with helping to make it unstoppable. In July, she had taken William and Harry to the south of France.
Diana and her boys take the Harrods' private jet to Al Fayed's villa in Saint-Tropez.
The Saint-Tropez villa of Diana's friend Mohammed Al Fayed. In full view of waiting press and TV cameras, the princess went to the beach beside it today. She seemed unconcerned by all the attention.
A holiday the cameras caught in unusually happy frames. Jet skis, diving boards, a mother and her 2 sons at play. It was the last summer the 3 of them had. On Saturday, August 30th, she flew into Paris for what was meant to be one short night before returning to London to see her sons. William was 15, Harry, 12, waiting at Balmoral. She had told them she would be home the next day. That afternoon, she telephoned Richard Kay, the Daily Mail journalist who knew her well. He has written that she sounded as happy as he had ever known her. But Paris had other plans, because by that evening, the city's photographers knew exactly where she was. The original plan that evening was dinner at a Paris restaurant. It was abandoned within minutes when photographers massed outside the entrance. The fallback was the Ritz, the hotel owned by the Fayed family, where Diana and Dodi Fayed took a private suite and ate as the crowd on the pavement grew. Then came the second change of plan, the one the inquest would examine for months. To dodge the photographers, decoy cars were sent to the front of the hotel. Diana and Dodi would slip out of the rear entrance on Rue Cambon and be driven to Dodi Fayed's apartment near the Champs-Élysées by Henri Paul, the hotel's deputy head of security, a man who had finished his shift hours earlier and been called back in. The security cameras recorded it all, the corridor, the waiting, and at around 20 past midnight, the door opening onto the night. Witnesses outside would later testify to one more detail, small at the time and enormous afterwards. Henri Paul, lingering by the cars, is said to have taunted the waiting photographers that they would never catch them. The last photographs taken of Diana before the crash were shot moments later through the windows of a black Mercedes pulling away. What the cameras could not show was established afterwards, in forensic detail. The Mercedes crossed Place de la Concorde and took the Riverside Expressway instead of the direct route. Pursuing photographers followed. At the entrance to the Pont de l'Alma underpass, travelling at roughly twice the speed limit, the car clipped a slower white Fiat Uno, swerved, and struck the 13th pillar of the tunnel head-on at 23 minutes past midnight. Henry Paul and Dodi Fayed died where they sat. The bodyguard, Trevor Rhys-Jones, in the front passenger seat, was gravely injured and survived. Inquest evidence suggested he was the only occupant belted for any part of the journey. Diana, conscious at first, was treated at the scene under the French system that stabilizes patients before moving them, then taken to the Petier-Salpêtrière hospital, where surgeons operated for hours against catastrophic internal injuries. At 4 o'clock in the morning, she died. She was 36.
Press Association announced with a news flash at 4:41, that's just a few minutes ago, that Diana, Princess of Wales, has died, according to British sources. The Press Association learned this morning.
Then came the questions, and for years they multiplied faster than answers. Why was Henry Paul driving at all? Why so fast? Where was the Fiat Uno? Could the ambulance have been quicker?
The fact that, it took the ambulance 2 hours to get to the hospital when it was only 10 minutes away, it's just too much going on.
The French investigation, then the British inquiry Operation Paget, then the London inquest examined every one of them. The findings were blunt. Paul's blood contained roughly 3 times the French legal alcohol limit. The speed came from the pursuit and the driver's condition, not sabotage. The slow ambulance reflected standard French emergency doctrine, not interference. In 2008, the inquest jury returned its verdict: unlawful killing through the grossly negligent driving of the Mercedes and of the vehicles in pursuit. No conspiracy, no plot. A drunk driver, a chasing pack, and a car travelling at twice the limit. Except for one loose end the jury could not tie. The white Fiat Uno was never found. Investigators traced and examined thousands of the cars across France without a match. The forensic traces on the wing of the Mercedes were real. The car they came from simply was never located, and no driver was ever charged. The investigators concluded the Fiat played only a glancing role in a crash that was already unfolding. But its absence from the record means the file on this exhaustively documented night still contains one unanswered line, and that blank space is where every alternative theory has lived for 29 years. And yet the detail that has stayed with the public longest is not mechanical at all. It is a phone call. That evening, before the Ritz, before the corridor, Diana spoke to her sons at Balmoral one last time. Both of them, as adults, have described that call with visible pain. A hurried goodnight from 2 boys who, by their own accounts, were eager to get back to playing with their cousins. A conversation cut short that could not be known to be the last. William has said the memory of that short call stays with him permanently. Harry has said he cannot remember exactly what he said, and that he will regret the shortness of it for the rest of his life. William has gone further still, admitting that, had he known what was coming, he would never have been so casual about getting off the phone. It is the one part of the night no investigation could touch. Not how she died, but how ordinary the last goodbye was. The next morning at Balmoral, it fell to their father to tell them why their mother would not be coming home. Charles then flew to Paris with Diana's 2 sisters and brought her back to England himself, her coffin draped in the Royal Standard, met on the tarmac by the Prime Minister.
The aircraft carrying the body of Diana, Princess of Wales, has arrived at RAF Northolt in West London.
At Balmoral, the family closed ranks around the boys in the only way it knew, by the accounts of that week. Routine, church, long walks, and as little television as possible, while London filled with flowers. The week that followed buried the gates of Kensington Palace in a sea of flowers, and it ended with the image the 2 sons have carried ever since. William and Harry, 15 and 12, walking behind their mother's coffin through central London, past a crowd of more than 1 million people standing in near total silence. Both have spoken about that walk as adults, and neither describes it kindly. Harry has said no child should be asked to do what they were asked to do that day. William has called it one of the hardest things he has ever done and said he used his fringe to hide behind. 29 years on, the anniversary has settled into something quieter. The theories have faded to the margins. The inquest answered them for anyone willing to read it. A statue of Diana stands in the sunken garden at Kensington, unveiled by her sons together in 2021, on what would have been her 60th birthday. William raised his own children through their early years in the same palace where she once raised him, and has spoken of keeping her memory alive for children who know her as Granny Diana. Every August 31st, the flowers still appear at the gates, left in armfuls by people who never met her, many of them not yet born in 1997. And somewhere in an archive sits the corridor footage from Paris. A tired woman in a black blazer, waiting by a service door, about to step into a night the world would spend 29 years trying to understand.